A single shooting has triggered a sweeping federal response and ignited a national firestorm. In New York, dozens are arrested under a new DHS operation targeting violent transnational gangs. At the same time, streets across America are boiling over as immigration enforcement becomes the center of a political and public showdown. This is Operation Salvo and the unrest unfolding around it. In July 2025, an off-duty U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer was shot in New York. The officer survived, but the incident became a turning point. Federal authorities quietly launched Operation Salvo, a coordinated enforcement campaign aimed at violent criminal networks operating inside the United States. 6 months later, the results are now public and explosive. According to the Department of Homeland Security, 54 individuals have been arrested in New York alone. DHS says those detained are linked to violent transnational gangs, including members of the Trinitarios, a group accused of weapons trafficking, human smuggling, drug distribution, and armed robberies across major U.S. cities. Officials say this is not routine immigration enforcement, but a targeted strike on organized crime. The Department of Justice describes the Trinitarios as a structured criminal enterprise with chapters in Massachusetts and beyond. Prosecutors say members work to dominate neighborhoods, intimidate rivals, and maintain control through violence. DHS confirms that several of those arrested under Operation Salvo are criminal illegal immigrants with histories of assault, including cases involving serious bodily harm and crimes against minors. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says roughly 60% of those arrested have already been removed from the country. Others remain in federal custody, facing criminal charges or immigration proceedings. Noem calls Operation Salvo only the beginning, warning that federal agencies will now pursue transnational gangs and criminal illegal aliens nationwide, using every available legal tool. Not everyone is backing the crackdown. Earlier this month, a group of lawmakers sent a sharply worded letter to President Trump, the Attorney General, and DHS leadership. They accuse the administration of deploying thousands of federal officers for immigration enforcement, raising concerns about civil liberties and federal overreach. The divide between Washington and its critics is fast widening. This enforcement surge comes amid nationwide protests triggered by a deadly confrontation in Minneapolis. From Los Angeles to the Twin Cities, demonstrations against ICE have turned tense, sometimes violent. What began with one death has evolved into a national flashpoint, pulling in protesters, police, federal agents, and political leaders.
Americans are erupting. Anger is boiling. Streets are igniting. And at the eye of a nationwide firestorm is ICE. Chants of no ICE in our streets are thundering from coast to coast, cities to cities across the United States. The protests, triggered after ICE agents fatally killed a woman in Minneapolis and border agents shot and injured 2 people a day later in Portland, have only been intensifying. As a result, U.S. cities are erupting in anger. In Minneapolis, thousands marched on Saturday to protest the fatal shooting of Renee Good by a federal immigration officer. A coalition of migrant rights groups organized the demonstration that began in a park about half a mile from the residential neighborhood where the 37-year-old Good was shot on Wednesday.
here at a park in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where thousands of people have gathered. They are protesting the presence of immigration enforcement in their city and calling for ICE and the Border Patrol to leave. Now they are here because they are angry. They are angry about the death earlier this week of Renee Good. She was a woman here in Minneapolis who was shot and killed by an ICE agent. This protest is part of a network of protests that are happening across the country right now. I've talked to the number of people who are here at the protest today, and they say they came because they want to make clear that they do not want ICE in their neighborhoods. They say that they want to protect their immigrant neighbors. They want them to feel safe here, and so they're coming to make their voice heard.
Amid growing outrage, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey urges protesters to demonstrate peacefully. This comes as on Friday night, a protest outside a Minneapolis hotel that attracted about 1,000 people turned violent as people threw ice, snow, and rocks at officers.
I also want to acknowledge that the vast majority of people have protested peacefully, recognizing that I have seen community members sort of step into the breach, recognizing that there are others out there, agitators that are trying to rile up large crowds, and not only have they not taken the bait, they have pushed others back from the brink to say, hey, you know what? This is what Donald Trump wants. He wants us to take the bait. He wants those agitators to get a hold of this crowd in a way that it makes them cause harm to others and or damage to property. And so to them, I want to say my deepest thanks. We are so grateful for everything that you've been doing.
Arrests. There were 29 arrests last night. We are aware of one police officer that was injured from a chunk of ice that was thrown at them. Other than that, we are not aware of any other injuries.
Chaotic scenes erupted in Los Angeles amid anti-ICE protests. RT reported that an unknown substance scattered rioters from ICE HQ they stormed. Protesters in Austin, Texas are getting pelted with non-lethals after one of them burned a flag. Officers fired tear gas to disperse angry protesters. Up, up with liberation, down, down with deportation chants were reverberated in North Carolina. Hundreds of protesters rallied at CCB Plaza and then staged a march through downtown, many dubbed ICE Out for Good, using the acronym for the federal agency Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
No, this isn't something I normally do. This is outside of what I would normally do. I don't really have any connections to the Democrats or the left, but what Trump is doing is psychotic. Because killing people in the streets in intimidation tactics is horrifying, and we can't allow it. We have to stand up.
Of course, the assumption is that this Justice Department is going to whitewash that case, absolve an officer of poor conduct at worst, at best.
What can protests like this do to...
I hope get people concerned. I hope get our legislators to grow what are called cojones, some guts, to assert their legitimate power under the Constitution.
Those are all lies. If you look at their policy against both Americans and their international policies, they follow the exact tenets and playbook of all fascist governments that we have seen in the 20th century.
Protesters against immigration enforcement took to the streets in Philadelphia after one federal officer fatally shot a woman in Minneapolis and another shot and wounded 2 people in Portland, Oregon. A large crowd marched through the streets and gathered outside the federal detention center, holding a sign reading ICE Out for Good. In Boston, Massachusetts, hundreds gathered outside the JFK Federal Building to protest against ICE. The protesters denounced what they describe as abusive and unaccountable enforcement practices.
I think we're all gathered here because we're seeing that ICE is not a very serious public agency, not making us safer. People here are protesting the fact that this is a fascistic organization operating outside the scope of the law. We're not only seeing immigrant lives being taken, now we're seeing citizens being hurt and killed. So people here are not only protesting and demanding justice for the family of Renee Good, they're also here demanding an end of ICE. I personally think that we can't reform fascism. We can't reform brutality. So many of us are here to stand in solidarity, but also building a movement that will hopefully end this very unconstitutional agency.
We got ICE shooting women in the face for self-defense. It doesn't make any sense. So, like I said, let them come to Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Chelsea. Let them come around here with that, and let's see what's really going to happen to ICE. We really are going to touch them with our hands.
That's the thing. The one unifying principle is equal justice under law. That is what I believe in most fully, and that is what I believe Trump is flouting continuously, and it's unacceptable.
The demonstrations intensified as the U.S. Department of Homeland Security pushed forward in Minneapolis and Oregon, calling it its biggest ever immigration enforcement operation. From Minneapolis to Boston, from Oregon to Philadelphia, this is no longer just a protest. This is a national uprising, and the storm is only getting stronger.